Let's talk to retired Lieutenant Colonel Daniel L. Davis. He's a military expert and host of Daniel Davis Deep Dive on YouTube. He's joining us from Virginia. Good to see you, Colonel Davis. What could be driving Russia to pound Ukraine with a myriad of drones, even making the Ukrainian army admit that Russia has an upper edge?
It's a continuation of the same thing that Russia's been saying really since June of last summer. And for some reason, many in the West just don't seem to be paying attention to it or don't believe it. I don't know what, but they said repeatedly, even on our show that we had a Russian ambassador who flatly said that Russia will achieve its aims at the negotiating table or on the battlefield. Last week, Putin himself from Beijing expressly said the same thing. They still want to negotiate. They're willing to have a deal, but only on terms that they can live with. And if they don't get those terms, as you just pointed out, as General Sirski is pointing out, Russia has the capacity, in industrial capacity, in manpower, and certainly in drones and other kinds of weapons of war and ammunition. They have everything they need to compel compliance. Our side does not have it. We cannot compel Russia to have a negotiated settlement on terms that are pleasant or preferable to Kiev or to Brussels or to Washington. And until we come to the recognition that the core balance of power between the two sides is irrevocably and decisively on Russia's side, all we're going to do is lose worse. That's the harsh reality that we face today.
Well, Colonel Davis, yesterday the Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban made an alarming statement, and it concerned Europe and Ukraine. Let's try and demystify what the Hungarian Prime Minister's speech yesterday was all about, where he claimed Ukraine will be divided into a Russian-controlled zone, a demilitarized buffer zone, and a Western zone after the war. Your view?
Well, listen, I saw that speech, and he just, first of all, he said the first one isn't something that will happen, but it has already happened. There is a Russian-occupied territory. The question is going to be, how big is that going to end up being, and when will we even negotiate the other parts? But he's saying really what both sides are generally kind of coming to the conclusion of that, however this comes to an end, because nobody, even on the West, says that this is going to end in any kind of a positive military outcome for them. There's going to be some sort of territory ceded, so that implies that there is going to be some sort of demilitarized zone. Even Russia wants a big demilitarized zone to prevent the West from coming further into Russia, and of course the Western side also wants a demilitarized zone. So generally both sides want that. The only question is how big, and in terms of the Western side there, that reflects that Russia doesn't want to occupy the western part of Ukraine. They just want one that's not hostile and has the capacity militarily to be able to threaten Russia. That's why they call for a demilitarization as part of the negotiated settlement. And I think that that's probably the broad outlines of what is going to end up happening.
All right, let's also talk about what the Prime Minister declared. He said that Western dominance is collapsing and only a new EU-Russia security deal can bring peace in Europe. He further claimed that America is fully aware that Ukraine is losing the battle. Your view on Orban's statements?
Well, I mean, he's just saying what any rational analyst would say of just looking at the situation unemotionally. There is no question that the very best that the West can do is lose slower. Because when you look at the industrial capacity of the entire West put together, not just Ukraine or European or American, all of it together compared to the Russian output all by itself is about 1 to 3 or 1 to 4, depending on who you want to look at. So in addition to the manpower issue, it's all the industrial capacity. That's just a fact. And even our own generals have admitted that openly. Russia also says the same thing. Orban is just saying out loud what is true on the ground. It's just that stuff that is not comfortable to the West. We don't want to hear that stuff. And so most of our leaders ignore that and say flowery things that we wish were true but aren't. Orban is saying what is true, and the longer it takes for us to acknowledge that, the worse those dynamics are going to get for us.
All right, Colonel Davis, it's good to see you. We'll have to end it there. Thank you for talking to us today.
You.